All right. My name is Sarah Bruner, and today I am going to be sharing the Jamboard that I created over a workshop on app smashing using Pear Deck. So, this page right here just kind of gives an example of how students or participants can use the over here on on your tool board. They can use the option of that's not what we need, that they can use add a sticky note, and so that's how I put my name on this. But Pear Deck is a program that, or is an app that our district has purchased the license for. So students have, or teachers have been using this app and kind of getting used to it. And so something that they might want to know how to do is to do this technique called app smashing. So this workshop is just going to kind of walk the teachers through how they could use it with, or some of the apps that they could use in Pear Deck. So then we move on to what our objectives are for the day. So our objectives are that we're going to discuss what app smashing is. We will also talk about how it can enhance student experiences, the different types of apps that can be embedded into Pear Deck and what it looks like. We can identify the benefits of smashing and how it can be used for both teacher-paced and student-paced. And then once they've kind of looked at some of the apps they can use and had a chance to play around with it, then they can think about how could they incorporate that into their fall, what they're doing this fall or whenever we would do this. So the first thing we would do is they would have an opportunity to kind of use some of the Jamboard resources. So the first thing is just a getting to know you. So they would drop or come over to their toolbar and choose a sticky note where they would input their sticky note with their name. Oops. So they would put your name on it, and then it says that they are also to put a GIF or GIF, however you say it, that tells how they're feeling about that workshop. So then they would go to the add an image. They could do a Google search and put like clueless GIF. And then they could just, kind of find a GIF that maybe represent, I don't know that any of these represent being clueless, but being clueless. And so this might be a good one. They could insert this over here by where their name is, and then that tells me as the presenter that that person doesn't have a whole lot of idea about what this is about. So that would be our introduction activity. After we do that, I want them to have another kind of reflecting on what kind of tools did they use to enhance their student engagement during remote learning last spring, or even if some of them are still doing remote learning now. And so once again, they can come over here and use the sticky note, pull it over, and write some different ways that they use that. It's a good way to just kind of a getting to know you and a refresher. Then we would go over what is the definition of app smashing. So it's a process of using multiple apps in conjunction with one another to complete a final task or project. So where app smashing is just where we're combining more than one application. So this would be combining an application into the Pear Deck program. So they can create, collaborate, and share their work with each other. After that, we would move on to what exactly or why might we want to app smash. And so it extends learning and challenges students. While app smashing, they can create videos, gather resources, solve problems, collaborate, complete assessments, or engage in critical thinking. without having to leave that actual application of Pear Deck. And then it can also be a place for them to collect their artifacts. So just kind of going over the benefits of app smashing. Then we would move into when students do Pear Decks, you can either have them do them teacher paced or student paced. So we would discuss the aspects of how is app smashing beneficial when doing a teacher paced lesson. So it allows the teachers to gauge the student learning by having them complete assignments in other platforms. They can guide students as they put their skills to practice, and it allows students to collaborate and create products in small groups that can be used after the lesson has been completed. So this is especially handy if you're doing remote learning, but also handy if, in this, like right now where students can't collaborate together like we would. So instead of having them get into small groups, you can put them into small groups using your app smashing app. It also talks about how it can be used on student-paced lessons, which is really nice for remote learning. Gives them additional resources to explore and practice as they work their way through a lesson. So this is great. I know when students are being quarantined, so when they're having to do asynchronous work at home, this is a great way to add those additional resources in. It allows them to collaborate and communicate with each other, and it allows a teacher to embed those different types of assessments to measure their learning outcomes and how they're doing. The next portion would be where we're looking at some of the apps that we are more familiar with in our district. So this is a part where the participants, we would talk about each different application: Padlet, Flipgrid, Kahoot, Quizzes, and Desmos. There's a lot of different apps you could use in Padlet, that you could use. However, these are the ones I know that we're the most familiar with. So, something participation use. So, they can, once they've done that, they can move their stars to whichever ones they feel like are their favorite to use, and that's kind of a good gauge as a presenter. Then we move into where we're actually looking at the different apps and going through kind of how they can be used, and then also giving participants time to go to Padlet, figure out how they could incorporate Padlet into their Pear Deck lesson. So we would go over this slide, and then we would spend some time, go to the Padlet site, and create a Padlet that they could incorporate into Pear Deck, or go through the Pear Deck site into the Padlet site as well. So we would go through Padlet, we would go through Flipgrid, we would go through Kahoot and Quizzes. Quizzes is fun. I know a lot of our kids like to play it. So when you use it with Pear Deck, a Kahoot and Quiz game, it can measure student retention, but it also scores on the formative assessment resource can be used to guide students to a particular slide to review content or move forward. So if you received less than a 7 out of 10, please revisit slide 7. If you received 8 or higher, continue on. So, you've moved through your slide, you've taken your assessment. Oh, you didn't do so hot, go back and restudy. Or, oh, you did really great, move on, you're ready to go. So, and I know we use a lot of Kahoot and Quizzes. Desmos is also one that they can use, and this is, they can apply the skills, formulas, and vocabulary terms for a course in a digital activity. So this is great for those vocabulary practice that can be a little boring and ho-hum. This is a great way to add that in. So after they've had time to work on all of those after we've talked about each one of the different applications, they will have an opportunity to open up a Pear Deck and practice some app smashing. Then once we are finished with all of that, they're going to come back and use that sticky note again and just put in some different ways that they could put it into action. So like I added one right here that says, um, they could use Flipgrid to have students respond to questions orally. So, so much. And I know even on our grade cards, it says students will orally discuss blah, blah, blah. That's a speaking and listening standard as well. So that's something we could use Flipgrid to help with that. And then the final activity is just for them to think about other apps that they might be able to smash into a Pear Deck to just enhance the students' learning experience. And of course, our final slide is all of the giving credit for all of the sites that I used to add images to make the Jamboard a little more interesting to see and to kind of do some of those visual effects that we were supposed to have. So I hope this is a satisfactory discussion of my Jamboard presentation, and hopefully sometime I'll be able to share this. Thank you.